So I went to a new therapist yesterday who was actually incredibly understanding, but they kind of get surprised when they're like, well, you're not anxious about this or you're not depressed about this. No, dude, I've been dealing with this shit since I was a little girl. I've learned to adapt. Not adapt in society. I don't know how to do that. I'm not very adaptable for society because essentially I don't understand why we watch abuse happen and just stand there and take it. It's why I can't be around new parents that are abusive or grandparents that are abusive, because essentially I can see the pattern repeating itself. So I will report it. And so, like, this guy, the questions he was asking, it just triggered something, and I talked to my cousin and I started crying, because I get emotional when I'm angry. I get very emotional when I'm angry because people are still trying to project this false narrative. And my mom is one of the biggest people to live in denial. And it's like, dude, you do understand that if you would stop denying our reality, we can move past this. Like, we can literally all go to our own therapy sessions and move past this. But as long as you keep pretending like the abuse didn't happen, it's very difficult to be around you. It's very, very difficult to be around you when you still want to keep pretending like you didn't do anything to us. And she did, she did do a lot of things to us that was incredibly harmful, including physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse. And essentially it was, I don't even know how to begin with that because it's a lot to unpack. So again, in therapy sessions with past therapists, and this is why I don't like them, they're like, well, you don't blame your siblings for their behavior and blah, blah, blah. No, I don't blame my siblings for their behavior. They're fucked up. They're fucked up. Each one of my siblings, including my older brother, was psychologically fucked up because of what my parents did to us. And essentially, that's why my brother joined the military, because he went from one cult-like mentality to another. And it's fine, he did what he needed to do to be able to cope with reality. But in reality, once he got out of the military, he just didn't know how to cope with the reality of what leaving his younger siblings in that household ended up creating. Because essentially my twin brother developed a lot of issues since like about age 10. And I've been dealing with a lot of internalized frustration because I've been telling my mom, like, just because you like to be a doormat doesn't mean that I'm going to be a doormat for everybody else. And essentially that's all she's ever wanted for me to just shut up and do what they are forcing me to do and asking me to do, including babysitting and working for her, essentially. Because of the fact that I was so sick, instead of helping me do the paperwork to get the help that I needed, she ensured that I would stay working, because essentially, yeah, we all need something to do. But if I would tell her that I didn't have the energy, oh, yes, you can, you can do this, you can do that. And it's like, you're not fucking listening. And I would push through because essentially, oh, you're so strong, you can do this. No, I fucking wasn't. I was exhausted all the fucking time. I was suicidal for years and nobody fucking noticed how many times I tried to commit suicide. In 2016, I believe, I want to say it's 2016, but it might have been, no, 2016, because my cousin died in 2015. So it was definitely 2016. I tried to commit suicide at least 4 times. The final time being around, Valentine's Day of 2017. And my memory isn't great with all of that, but essentially that last suicide attempt, and after everything my cousin admitted to me about what they were doing to me, I realized I had to buck up, like literally stay silent about what was happening so that I could essentially build the mental fortitude that it would take to finally leave that household, because I saw the pattern repeating itself of what my mother did to my sister to ensure that she thought she was crazy and she would stop talking about the abuse that we sustained at home. But essentially the abuse was consistent and prolonged for such a long time that your body starts to show signs of it. It starts to show signs of it. And when people are denying your reality, it's really hard to be around those people. Even if it's cousins, even if it's other family members, when they start denying that reality to make themselves feel comfortable, like, you need professional help. So do y'all. I need professional help because I went through those things, but you guys need professional help because you're listening to what happened, and some of you actually watched and participated in what was going on, and you said nothing about it. You didn't report it, and many of you were mandated reporters, whether you were nurses, working for social workers, police officers, because one of my cousins was a police officer and her brother tried to rape me. At the time, she wasn't a police officer, but later on she was. So she knew a lot of the abuse that was going on in my household as well. Nobody ever reported it. So when my brother came back from the Marines, it was just constant fighting, but I never blamed my siblings. I still don't blame them. I don't want to be around them. They don't want to get help. They don't want to change. I don't want to be around them. But essentially, why should I have to keep putting up with it? So for the past couple years, I've let them believe what they want to believe. They want to believe I'm crazy. I'll behave like a crazy person in front of you. Why? Because that protected me. It made you go through your plans and do what you wanted to do and self-report on what you're fucking doing. The evidence is there on everything that you guys were doing. And throughout it all, I kept my center working on my garden. I kept my center volunteering at places that offered the type of therapies that Kaiser no longer offered, like garden therapy, exercise therapy, biofeedback, things like that I truly needed, but I couldn't afford. And my mom would use financial, because they didn't believe what I was doing was therapy, because in their fucked up minds, only pharmaceuticals are therapy. Pharmaceuticals were harming me over and over again, not just my mental status. They were harming my organs because I don't need to be on pharmaceuticals. I have tried to explain this over and over and over again, but y'all ain't listening. Yes, I may need pharmaceuticals once they've finished diagnosing my problems so that we can get my blood pressure and those things under control. But essentially, if they accept CBD and THC as the treatment plan, I don't need to be on all those pharmaceuticals. The company that I was volunteering with produces a lot of herbal CBD mixtures that were incredibly helpful for me and reduced a lot of the things that doctors misdiagnosed, including agoraphobia. I am not agoraphobic. So essentially, they did the same thing to my sister. They gave her all these diagnoses until eventually she was labeled agoraphobic, but it's not because of that. Essentially, the torture that we were going through over and over and over again caused a lot of people. And that's why I try to tell my sister when she tries to say, well, I can't do that. Fucking don't talk about my sister like that. You can do these things. You can help yourself. It makes me sad to see the shell of a person that you have become. You know, I can't be around you because you don't actually want to help yourself. Same thing with my twin brother. You guys want to accuse and blame because essentially that's what was done to you, but I didn't do that to you. Other family members did that to you. I tried to support each and every one of you through what was happening because I saw it and I refused to be a part of it. I refused to be a motherfucking part of it. But you guys didn't. You guys believed all of the things she was saying about us so that she could deteriorate our credibility. But essentially, if you look at the facts, her credibility is just as danky as ours is. It's just as clouded, as muddy as you say that ours is, because I was an alcoholic. I stopped drinking about 4 or 5 years ago around COVID, right after COVID, because it was when we got Bella. She would drop my drinks, chew on my cigarettes. I stopped smoking cigarettes and I stopped drinking. Those two things made a huge difference in my life. Why? Because I understood why I was drinking. I was drinking to be around these people. So I started slowly detaching myself and going minimal contact with my sister, my brother, my mother, and every single one of the family members that enables her bullshit or actually directly abuses me, whether physically, verbally, psychologically, or emotionally, because they believe the narrative that she has created. Because essentially, if they don't believe the narrative, they have to accept that they played a role in abuse. And that's what you guys don't want to do. You don't want to accept that you played a role in abusing the members of my household, not just me, but my twin brother and my sister. You guys do not want to admit that you guys were psychologically, emotionally abusing us, to the point where they were physically abusing me, because essentially my sister, my older brother, and my twin brother were incredibly physically abusive with me. So since I was a little girl, I would Hulk out. And then they would say that I'm the one that can't control her temper. They try to create a narrative that I was physically abusive. But the only times that I have ever hit anyone back is after weeks or months of being verbally, emotionally, and then eventually physically abused. It's never been from retaliation, and it's definitely never been me starting it. It's never been me starting it. Reactive abuse is not the same as the abuse. And essentially, I don't like that word. I really hate the word reactive abuse, because it's self-fucking-defense. Me pretending I was crazy in front of you so that you guys could continue with your stupid, dirty little plan was the only thing I could do to get out of that household safely. But yes, my memory is fucked up. I have a lot of memory issues, especially when I'm anxious. But essentially, that anxiety doesn't come, it comes from overwhelm and from over exposure to these things. Since I haven't been exposed to them, yes, it took a couple months for my nervous system to relax, but I still get overstimulated, and that's not going to change because I've always had a different nervous system. And because of my different nervous system, I have always been called sensitive and even beaten for my nervous system. And when other people are lying about things, I have even been beaten for telling the truth, physically abused for telling the truth by multiple family members, not just my direct family members, aunts and uncles, cousins. So yes, as you guys are showing your true colors, I am cutting you out, and I love you dearly. I do. And maybe one day we'll be able to have a conversation again. But until you motherfuckers actually take a look at what you did and stop lying. Because even my cousin who studied psychology did not even notice that I never did drugs in front of them because I was collecting the drugs so I could commit suicide. You guys did not notice how suicidal I was after my cousin died, after Sonia died. No one noticed how suicidal I was. No one did. Because you chose to be too wrapped up in your own shit to realize that I was dying inside and physically, because I was in so much physical pain and I wasn't getting help. And Louise Osegueda, she's a witness that when I was at the hospital with Sonia, I would sleep on the floor on a pillow because of how much pain I was in. I slept in chairs for years because of how much physical joint pain I'm in all the time. It's not an easy life to live, but I'm doing it. And I'm doing it with very minimal pain control, which is causing a lot of organ damage. But until they properly diagnose, I refuse to do my natural herbal treatments because I want them to see what the flare-ups look like. I want them to stop denying what a flare-up looks like. I want my own family to stop denying and actually get help for their conditions, because my sister has a lot of joint conditions as well. So I understand she's in physical pain, but a lot of it, sister, is because you won't get brain help. My twin brother too, he's been in a lot of physical pain for a long time, for a lot of injuries that he's had. And essentially his best medicine has always been alcohol. And a lot of the issues with all of that is that it's complex trauma that we are all carrying, and there's not a lot that we can do with that complex trauma but move through it. And that's what I told my new therapist. I'm like, a few years ago, I would agree with you. I would totally agree with you. Yes, you know, I am depressed. I am, you know, because I was being isolated. I was intentionally being isolated by my ex. I was intentionally being isolated by family members who believed that I was a drug addict and stuff like that. Yes, dude, I took drugs. Absolutely. I tried to commit suicide many, many times. I will never deny that. I tried to commit suicide many times. That's not a maybe or anything like that. But essentially, I got accused of cutting when I wasn't a cutter. In my sleep, I would scratch. And people would think that when I would talk to them about it, oh, I cut too. You can admit to me that I'm a cutter too. Bitch, I'm trying to fucking tell you. When I sleepwalk, people tried to pretend like my sleepwalking wasn't a thing. It's been a thing since I was a little girl. And essentially, when they put me on all those psychiatric medications, they made it worse to the point where I was actually cooking and cleaning in my sleep. I used to keep the house clean because I struggled with OCD so that my mom would stop abusing my twin brother. And then my twin brother would call me a tweaker. I lost a lot of weight because of the stress that I was under, but they would call me a tweaker. So yes, I collected a lot of 8 balls trying to kill myself and failed every motherfucking time because I wanted to die. And the easiest way to hide that was when there was parties and stuff, people are like, well, do you have any? Can I have some? Sure, go ahead and take it. Why? Because if they believed that I was a drug addict, at least they wouldn't blame themselves for not noticing how much pain I was in. How much pain I'm still in. Not emotional pain. I'm angry. That's the only emotion I feel about all of this. I'm angry. I'm angry that this narrative about me is still being portrayed by family members instead of actually acknowledging their role in everything. Because essentially, I still love you. Admit that our realities are not the same so that we can move past it, so that we can talk about it. We can share our own stories and maybe realize that there's overlapping times so that we can all heal. But as long as you keep denying each other's reality, I accepted my sister's reality since I was a girl, but I could not help her with it because I was dealing with my own shit. I accepted both of my brothers' realities, and I loved them through all of it. I just couldn't be around them because it would overstimulate me to the point where I would have meltdowns. And then I would be accused of being overly sensitive. I can't control those meltdowns. Those are nervous system shutdowns that happened since I was a little girl, that people have been ignoring despite my parents being told that we should be placed in therapy. And honestly, I don't think therapy would have helped back in the day because essentially women like myself were not diagnosed with neurodivergence. And it just sucks. It really does suck because that's why I tell my therapist now, I need to know what my neurotype is because I know a lot about cognitive function. And if I know my neurotype, I can practice the therapies that I need so that I can reconstruct my neural pathways because I believe in that. I've been doing it since I was a little girl. When I would get these headaches, I would reconstruct my neural pathways because nobody was helping me through this. Despite telling doctors over and over again, even my mom's favorite doctor in Tijuana, he likes to make fun of me. He likes to make fun of me instead of taking me seriously. And it really, really, really frustrates me because it leads to more psychological abuse. And this time from doctors. And essentially because my mom had this fucked up narrative about her kids from early on, don't ask why my siblings and I fell into drugs and suicidal ideation. Don't ask why we were like that. Ask what events happened that created that why. Because we've been trying to heal from it our entire life, and my mom has squashed it every time. Every time we have tried to heal from it, she has pushed and pushed and pushed until breaking our brain so that we will stop talking about it. Because to her, that's what loyalty looks like. Never talk about the trauma that we sustained. And each one of the enablers in the family, that's why I told my cousin today, I'm like, dude, you don't even realize what your mom's been doing to your brother. Because essentially my cousin used to even make pizzas at Pachanga. My tia made him hyper dependent on her so that she could always have someone with her. But essentially, when Sonia was still alive, she would help with her brother because she was trying to help him. She was trying to help me get out of that house as well. And essentially, she failed every time. She failed because of all of my physical disabilities. It's hard to sustain a job, but it's not because I'm making it up. It's because it actually is a thing. And it's not because I'm depressed, because I'm not depressed. When I need to cry, I cry, but it's not from depression. I have accepted the system exactly the way it is. And that's why I told the doctor, I understand. This is exactly how it's working and how it was intended to work. It's working exactly the way the whole housing process and everything is working exactly the way it was intended. So that you either go crazy on the street, commit suicide, commit a crime, or go on drugs. That is the goal. Because you need to prove that you're not going to do any of those things before you get government assistance. Until then, you're stuck in fucked up housing situations that they themselves place you in, so that they can break you and either institutionalize you, put you on conservatorships, or deny you the assistance because you committed a crime, you did drugs, or you attack someone and are physically or emotionally unstable, so they have to institutionalize you. Essentially, all of that is what they've been doing to me for the last couple months, and thinking that I am not aware of the patterns that they are portraying. I've seen it too many times with my friends. Every time I've been homeless and I have asked for help, this is the type of shit that I've had to go through. Everyone keeps saying that this is all new because of what's going on with the government. No, bitches. The first time I left my home and ended up homeless because of what happened with our housing situation, it was back in 2008 or 2009. And I ended up living with a cousin who was also portraying, turning off my electricity, denying me access to the bathroom and kitchen and things like that. Why? Because they had a fucked up belief. And, oh, you brought a homeless person to the house. I brought a homeless person to the house so that my cousin would stop bringing her boyfriend to my house. And eventually, when she left there, I stopped bringing my homeless friend to the house. On the contrary, I bought him a ticket to go home to Arizona. He wasn't doing anything to you guys or anyone. But you wanted to start that narrative because you have a thing against homeless people. Because you hate me for being homeless. You also hate me because I dress like a homeless person when I'm in pain because it's more comfortable for my joints. And that's another thing. My mom was always, if I stim, because I've always talked with my hands since I was a little girl. If I stim, if I'm doing my tapping and things like that, pareces retardada. You know, trying to suppress everything that makes me because it makes her uncomfortable. Because she doesn't like how it makes her look. All of that breaks a person's spirit. I'm not surprised that I became suicidal, but it wasn't because of my health conditions. Yes, my health conditions exacerbate the situation, and the stress that I'm living under exacerbate my health conditions. But essentially, if and when housing, if I get proper housing, I take very good care of myself. I've been proving that for years. And I've been off of most pharmaceuticals since 2020. Now they have re-prescribed Maxalt, and I'm taking a lot of supplements for my spinal decompressions and things like that. However, since 2020, I've been off of the pharmaceuticals that they prescribe. And even though that's been the case, when everything went down in my house after my mother's surgery, they still tried to tell everyone that I was on psychiatric medications and pharmaceuticals. And this is what I mean. As long as you guys keep believing the lie of the narrative, people like myself can't get help. As long as you don't keep looking at the pattern of events that have happened with multiple members in the household, people like myself and my sister cannot get proper help. Because essentially you're always going to think that she's crazy, but you don't see how her narcissistic ex and current baby daddy that she lives with also triggers her by dog whistling her, by ruining vacations purposely and things like that. He does a lot of psychological shit. And that's why I told her, I can't be around you guys. So what did she do? She made my nieces and my nephew believe that I'm the crazy one. I'm not the crazy one. I know that my sister needs help. I know that her husband he has narcissistic tendencies. I can't say that he's an actual narcissist, but he has narcissistic tendencies. And I know that he dog whistles her because I notice it. Me and him have gotten into physical altercations since I was 13 years old because of how he dog whistles her. And I didn't like it. Why? Because my dad used to do that to her. I've never denied the abuse that she has sustained. On the contrary, I have tried to help her every step of the way, but she keeps going back to the abuse because it's familiar. I can't be around that. I learned once my oldest niece was 14, I learned that I couldn't be around it because it was going to kill me. Because it was killing me. I was trying to commit suicide at the time. It was killing me to watch her do that to herself and for her to have allowed everything to continue the way it did. Because essentially they could have put the house under her name to protect her. My mom could have pushed for that, but they allowed it to be under his name so that he could have the controlling party and she couldn't kick his stupid ass out. That is narcissistic abuse. Maybe not from an actual narcissist, but from a narcissistic cult and narcissistic cult-like behavior. So no, you guys can create all the fucking narratives that you want, but essentially, if you are not willing to face the harm that you have caused and your role even in our drug use and suicide attempts, alcoholism, and psychiatric problems, if you don't want to accept your role in it and accept that you also need therapy, you guys are going to continue to enable abusive behaviors, and I can't be around it, because if I see you doing that to a child, I will fucking report you. You as adults can do whatever the fuck you want to each other, but if I see you doing that to another child, that's why even my cousin Sandra stopped coming to the house, because I told her I would report her. I will report you, because it's another generation of neglect and abuse. Neglect is more harmful than any physical abuse that I have ever gone through. Every time I've been sexually assaulted, I've been able to overcome it because it's an event that happened and it's easier to overcome. Neglect and psychological abuse and gaslighting, that's very difficult to come through, because you have to remember who you are through all of it. It's why I stayed quiet and internalized and kept to myself, because I understood that if I kept allowing other people's narratives to come into my mind, I was going to break the same way my sister did. I'm not stupid. And I'm not crazy. And I don't need to be on psychiatric medication. But if you guys want to keep portraying that narrative, let's do it. Put me in a psychiatric hospital. And I will do everything that you guys are asking me to do. But essentially, that's not what you want. Because I'm not going to go on medications that are physically harmful to me, because I'm not doing anything. I'm not putting anyone in danger. I'm not putting myself in danger. On the contrary, throughout all of this, I'm still going to my doctor's appointments. I'm still showing up for myself. Sure, I can't show up for my family members, but I am still 100% showing up for myself. And it is exhausting to have to be managing all of my health conditions while also having to prove all of this to myself and to others. Because instead of believing what the abuse was going on and listening when I would call the cops about what was going on, you guys left me in a household being abused, and you believed the narrative created about me. And essentially, you had the right to, because my credibility was off, because I did try many times buying different forms of drugs to try to kill myself. Essentially, I did that to myself. I ruined my credibility. I take full responsibility for that. Full responsibility, but it was never addiction. That's what I've been trying to explain to you guys. There's a difference. For me, it was not addiction. It was suicidal ideation. And I had to plan that shit out every single time. And essentially, not even my psychiatrist caught that. Why? Because all they want to do is medicate, not understand the different cultural differences that are going on in different households, including Latino households. And that's what's frustrating about continuing to get therapists and psychiatrists, that some of them just don't comprehend this. And essentially, if you guys keep doing this to people, you're going to see a lot of broken people continue to be broken, because you're not helping them with these narratives. You're not helping them, putting them through all this abuse and re-abusing them to prove whatever it is that you're trying to prove before you give them assistance. Or putting them in halfway houses with individuals who are violent, who are psychologically abusive, or who are abusive to each other, because people like myself cannot handle watching other people, because that's why I behaved. That's why I was a perfectly behaved child, because I didn't want my mother to do to me what she would do to my older brothers and my sister. I didn't want my dad to do to me what they did to them. So I stayed silent about all the abuse. And even when I would try to talk about it, my mom, no, eso no es verdad. It's not true. It's not true. That never happened. Denying a person's reality causes harm. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it happened. It happened, and the only way we can move past it is if we accept that both of our realities can coexist. Because you weren't there to watch it happen. You were either at the casino or at work. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm not going to keep pretending like your addictions did not affect me. Because those are addictions that you have and have not wanted to face. I will not do that for you. I love you dearly and I can be around you. I can give you a hug, but I cannot accept you back into my life until you recognize the harm that you have done, because both of our realities exist. There's no denying that they exist, and they can coexist. But as long as you keep denying the harm that you have done, we can't coexist. Because you're going to keep trying to portray the victim narrative to the entire world so that I don't have family and I'm isolated from my own family. And it's easy for them to do that, because if they don't do that, then they have to admit that they enabled and participated in the abuse. That's not on me. That's on you guys. And it wasn't because I didn't reach out, because every time I was suicidal, I reached out to a different family member only to be ignored every single time. Every single time. And it wasn't easy at all to understand that in what I was going through and what my sister went through, there was never going to be a family member who helped us through it, because they were all going to cover up the abuse. It is what it is. I love you and have a beautiful day.